Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story is a beautiful reminder that karma sometimes wears a security tag, and it doesn't need a receipt. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Karen kept cutting back into line, so I gave her a sticky surprise at checkout. This incident actually happened just a couple of hours ago, and honestly, I'm still laughing about it. I went out for a quick lunch break and decided to stop by a fairly large store nearby to grab some water and maybe a snack. Of course, since it was around peak lunchtime, the store was a madhouse. Every aisle had people packed in like sardines, and the checkout lines were even worse. It didn't matter if you were in the self-checkout or the express lanes, everywhere had a queue stretching halfway down the aisles. I resigned myself to the wait and picked a line that at least looked like it was moving steadily. I'd only a couple of items, so I figured it wouldn't be too bad. That's when she entered my life. In front of me stood a woman who clearly had zero patience for lines. She was maybe in her late 40s or early 50s, wearing a fake designer bag and tapping her foot like she was trying to drill a hole through the floor. You could just tell she was the kind of person who believed the rules didn't apply to her. At first, I ignored her. Maybe she was just antsy, but then she started running around. Every few seconds, she'd dart out of line like a squirrel on espresso, scanning nearby lines to see if any were shorter. Then she'd scurry back to her place in front of me, every time elbowing me slightly as she squeezed back in. She muttered to herself the entire time, sighing dramatically, huffing like we were all wasting her precious time. After about the fourth time she bumped me with her bag, I finally had enough. I leaned forward and said as politely as I could manage, "Ma'am, if you leave the line again, I'm not going to let you cut back in." Her head snapped around like I'd just slapped her. She glared at me with the fury of 1,000 angry Yelp reviewers. "Your turn hasn't come yet," she barked at me, loud enough for several people around us to glance over. "So don't waste my time and shut up." Wow, real mature. I bit my tongue. No use getting into a shouting match with a Karen during rush hour in a grocery store, but that didn't mean I couldn't have a little fun. As I stood there fuming quietly, I noticed the counter next to us had a bunch of random sale items: phone chargers, toothbrushes, socks, the kind of impulse buys stores love to put near checkout lines. I also noticed that a few of these items had security stickers on them. You know, the kind that triggers the alarm if you leave the store without paying? A wonderfully petty idea popped into my head. While she was busy huffing and checking her phone, I casually reached out, picked up a small item, and with a little sleight of hand, peeled one of those security stickers off. With all the chaos around, it was easy to do unnoticed. Then, as she shifted her weight and stepped forward a bit, I lightly flicked the sticker onto the floor near her. Sure enough, within a few seconds, she stepped right onto it. Perfect. Her turn finally came. She practically threw her items at the cashier, barely waiting for the poor guy to scan them before snatching her receipt and making a beeline for the exit. She was probably dreaming about all the important things she had to do, like yelling at more minimum wage workers. But karma moves fast sometimes. The moment she crossed the threshold, the alarm went off. Loud, piercing, heads turned. Shoppers froze. One of the security guards near the door immediately stepped forward, asking her to stop. She didn't. She tried to push past him, insisting she didn't steal anything. Another guard came over, then another. Pretty soon there were at least 4 store employees surrounding her as she shrieked about how this was harassment and how she had important places to be. Meanwhile, I paid for my water and snack and calmly walked toward the door. I took a slightly longer route so I could get a better look at the scene. Karen was full on losing it, arguing at the top of her lungs while the guards tried to explain they just needed to check her bags. I strolled out into the sunlight with a giant grin on my face. By the time I got into my car and started backing out, she was still at the entrance, red-faced and flailing her arms, with half the store security team trying to calm her down. But by then, it definitely wasn't my problem anymore. I gotta say, you executed the kind of revenge that 99% of us fantasize about in those moments, but usually never pull off. It was elegant, subtle, non-violent, no screaming match, no messy drama, no direct confrontation, just pure delicious chaos delivered at exactly the right time. And our second story. You shut down my credit card. I work at a clothing store in a mall. Entitled customers don't usually frequent our store, but unfortunately that doesn't mean we're immune to them. I had the displeasure of dealing with one of the most ridiculous customers during the chaos of the holiday season. For context, we don't even offer a store credit card. None. Zero. Zip. Let's set the scene. L equals crazy lady. M1 equals first manager. M2 equals second manager. I was working up at the front when she stormed in. Picture the cool mom from Mean Girls, except instead of offering you a cocktail, she's glued to her phone and radiating pure rage. I gave her my best retail smile and welcomed her in. And in return, she stared daggers at me like I just insulted her entire bloodline. She said nothing and immediately stormed over to my coworker. L, I need to speak to a big manager, like a GM or a DM, someone in charge. M1, our general manager is currently on break, but I'm one of the assistant managers. What can I help you with? L, raising her voice, you hesitated. That means you're lying. I need a real manager. At this point, M2, another assistant manager who'd been within earshot, hurried over, sensing a potential storm brewing. M2, hi there, ma'am. Is there anything I can assist you with today? L, practically shrieking, you shut down my credit card. M2, obviously confused, tried to stay calm. M2, I'm sorry, I don't understand. How could we have done that? L, do you know what a fraudulent transaction is? Because when I inserted my card into your machine, your POS terminal read it as fraudulent and canceled my card. Your store ruined my finances. M2 tried to explain that our terminal could not physically shut down a customer's credit card, but the lady wasn't having it. L, I know what fraudulent transactions are. I have a degree in technology. Do you? I didn't think so. That's why you work in retail. At this point, everyone in the front half of the store had stopped pretending not to listen. It was impossible to ignore her. M2 kept trying to calm her down, asking her to please lower her voice, but Crazy Lady wasn't interested in being rational. As she continued ranting at my poor managers, she was also on the phone with her bank. I only caught snippets, but the best part was when the bank representative apparently asked her to verify her identity. Standard practice. Her screeched response, L, I will not give you any of my information. That is mine and mine only. At this point, M2 sent me to the back of the store to get away from the chaos. A coworker later filled me in. Crazy Lady claimed that the store had humiliated her in front of everyone and threatened to file a formal complaint against all of us. Her parting line as she stormed out, I won't be here ever again. Except she did come back 2 days later to yell at us because she allegedly bought the wrong size. Good times. And our last story. Hospital Karen melts down after yelling at a random guy. A few months ago, I had an experience so absurd that even thinking about it now makes me shake my head. I was at the hospital for a routine appointment, and after finishing up, I made my way out to the valet stand to wait for my car. Just to paint the picture, it was a sunny afternoon, the hospital entrance was bustling with people, and the valet stand was manned by 3 actual valets. They were easy to spot in their professional uniforms, bright blue shirts with the company logo embroidered on the chest and black slacks. Meanwhile, I was in a purple t-shirt, shorts, and not insignificantly a wheelchair. I found a spot about 10 feet away from the valet stand and parked myself there to wait patiently for my car. Everything was perfectly normal until a car pulled up right in front of the hospital doors. A woman, your classic Karen, hopped out of the driver's seat like a hurricane about to make landfall. Without missing a beat, she locked eyes on me, pointed, and started yelling, You! I need you to park my car! At first, I thought maybe she was talking to someone behind me. I even looked around for a second. Nope, she was glaring directly at me. She stormed closer and kept at it, more aggressively this time, barking orders. Come on, park it already! What are you waiting for? Mind you, I'm sitting there in a wheelchair, clearly not dressed like the valets, and doing absolutely nothing that would suggest I was working. I let her rant for a good 20 seconds, partly because I was stunned and partly because I honestly wanted to see if she'd realized her mistake. She didn't. Finally, I looked at her deadpan and asked, Does it look like I work here? Without missing a beat, she snapped back, "You're sitting by the stand," as if proximity to the valet station automatically made me an employee. At this point, I decided to drive the point home, pun intended. I tapped on the wheels of my chair and said, "Think this is for decoration?" You could practically see the gears grinding in her brain. There was a long pause, her face first blank, then morphing into a brilliant shade of red as realization dawned. She sputtered and stammered for a moment before landing on her next brilliant move, blaming me. "Well, you're misrepresenting yourself," she barked. "How was I supposed to know you don't work here?" Right about then, my car pulled up, driven by an actual valet. As I transferred myself into the driver's seat, I couldn't help but catch her still yammering away, not to me anymore, but to one of the real valets. "That man was so rude and refused to help me," she complained loudly enough that I could hear every word. The poor valet glanced over at me, shook his head with the world-weary look of someone who had clearly dealt with too many Karens in his time, and turned back to her without saying much. As I drove off, she was still standing there, arms flailing, trying to explain how she had been wronged by a guy in a wheelchair who dared not be her personal valet. I didn't stick around to see how that played out, but based on the look on the valet's face, I can guess it didn't end well for her. The whole thing still makes me laugh. There are so many layers of ridiculousness in this one interaction. The assumption that anyone sitting nearby must be there to serve her, the fact that I'm clearly in a wheelchair and she still didn't clue in, and finally her attempt to spin it like she was the victim. It's amazing the level of entitlement some people walk around with, and even more amazing how they double down instead of just admitting they made a mistake. It's like they literally do not see people. They don't notice clothes or any other defining features like a wheelchair. They just notice a human in the general area and go off. It's crazy. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.